Okay, my friend, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about overcoming lust. Lust is one of the demons that the modern man may face. So you may be in your journey of combating lust, or you may currently be a goon champion and you wish to change your life. So this is going to be a masterclass lecture on how to not be the guy on the left here, right? This may be you, the hunchback from 300, and turn you into the right side. Yujiro Hanma, the strongest creature on Earth. So before this, let me do a sound check really quick. Welcome to Spiritual Boss Global. This is the boss lecture of overcoming lust. I just need to do one sound check. Hello. Check.
My name is Jeff. My name is Jeff.
Behold my mighty hand.
All right, seems good. So, I put this character on the left, the Conqueror of 300, my favorite character, maybe of all times, the Hunchback of 300. Now, I'm going to play you a scene which represents what happens to people who become goon champions and are addicted to lust. So, let's get into this right
You
here.
are the crimson of a Spartan.
I am Ephialtes, born of Sparta.
Your shield and armor.
My father, sir, I beg you, bold king, to redeem my father's name by serving you in combat.
Fine thrust.
I will kill many Persians.
Raise your shield. Your father should have taught you how a phalanx works. A single weak spot, and the phalanx shatters.
But I...
If you want to help in a Spartan victory,
Yes.
clear the battlefield of the dead, tend the wounded.
You...
Mother! Father! You are wrong!
So, when you become a goon champion, you become like Ephialtes. And this may be what you represent. Somebody who blames the world, somebody who is a coward, somebody who is a traitor, somebody who's addicted to lust, oftentimes cannot deal and cope with life. And they are goon champions.
You are wrong! Leonidas!
And if you wish to rid yourself of this vice, or if you have been combating this for a very long time, because it's a sickness in the modern world that has been made very, very accessible, I'm going to dive deep into this spiritual effects and how we can rid of this. So let's get ready here, huh? You ready? Welcome to Spiritual Boss Global.
Behold my mighty hand.
I just got a soundboard, so I'm playing with it. But first,
Hello, monkeys!
allow me to introduce myself, introduce the channel, and let's get a spiritual understanding of what lust is and how it can affect you. So, my name is Master J. I'm the host of Spiritual Boss Global and spiritualbossglobal.com. I recommend you going to that website if you're interested. And I'm a Vietnamese American shaman. And for the past around nearly 10 years now, I've been treating clients, working with clients all over the world. And I've learned many things. But I found that the issues that men face were some of the most hardest and most difficult to diagnose and get to the root of, because men are very, very misunderstood in today's world. And also men struggle with issues that have never ever been faced before in our modern age. So lust, if you want to look at lust, you want to look at on the right, this is what a parasitic attachment or an entity of lust would look like in the astral realm. This entity will attach to somebody and it will use lust to take away their energy, to take away their life, and it will feed off of your life, just like a leech. So lust is something that I've seen quite a bit. I've seen quite a bit, and it often becomes entangled with other issues that men may face, but it becomes a band-aid for a man's emotions. So let's dive deeper into this here. The first thing you must understand is lust is the ultimate trickster. The ultimate trickster.
We must use these tools that the great God has given us to fight.
What I see in the modern day, what I see in the modern society, Many of the clients that I weren't able to treat with the knowledge that I was given, I'm revisiting that right now. And none of this is medical advice, all right? None of this is medical advice. I am just a spiritual worker in the field. But let's examine some of the things that I've seen. I call this goblin mode. This is a new spiritual sickness that men are facing today. A goblin mode. So many times clients had come to me and they had asked me to help their son. And oftentimes they had the same characteristics, which I found quite disturbing and something new. You don't see things like this in old textbooks or spiritual texts, right? Goblin mode. It's a young man who sits in their room. They're addicted to some video game. They bring food into their room and it becomes like this weird little man cave. And many times parents will yell at this young man, who's usually in the age of 20 to 30, to go get a job, to clean his room. But he simply rebels. And he lives in this really, really strange circumstance or even environment where he is like nocturnal and he doesn't function in society. And he eats food in his room and he leaves like trash in his room, even if it gets moldy. And then he's stuck on the computer playing League of Legends, Valorant, and likely he is gooning all the time. He's on energy drinks, Cornhub, HamsterTube.com, League of Legends, and he's just stuck there. And I found it very, very tough to work with these guys because why? A man is very dangerous, regardless of how old a man is, regardless of what age a man is. If he's age 20, 30, he has physical vitality, he has physical presence. So in speaking to these men, you never know when they're going to snap because they're all emotionally weird, right? But it's a spiritual issue. So oftentimes the root of much of this is their addiction to lust. The addiction to lust, the addiction to porn, the addiction to goonification, the addiction to a slave to the primal mind. What it does is it spoils the dopamine receptors in the brain, and spiritually it drains one of their energy. But from a medical standpoint, it releases a bunch of hormones in the brain, oxytocin, vasopressin, that kind of makes a man draw back. And if you look at the nervous system, the reason why people get things like post-nut clarity is it's switching the parasympathetic nervous system. So the nervous system of a man is supposed to be naturally hunting. But when he's gooning too much, what it does is it hits a switch into relaxation mode. It turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. This is why guys relax after they goon, and then it turns off their drive, it turns off their ambition. But what you're seeing today is a modern sickness, a modern illness of people entering goblin mode. This is really what I call goblin mode. I've seen it many times, and actually it's really, really, really disturbing. I've seen young men stop bathing. I've seen young men like there's like food everywhere in the room, McChicken wrappers, McDonald's, Jack in the Box, pizza, like everywhere, cups of soda, and they have no ambition, they have no drive in life. So lust can be a big factor for this. So now let's look at lust on the left side, right? From the etheric standpoint, the spiritual entity of lust is really like it's a low level attachment, right? And on the right side, we see what is symbolized as the succubi. Now, for those of you who are addicted to gooning, relax, right? Relax with this, right? Don't start gooning because you see a picture of a woman here. I know some of you guys need to really chill. Oh, shoot. Now, what lust does is, it is the ultimate trickster, and why it is pretty much the final boss for a man to face in his journey of conquering and mastering himself. Why lust is such a trickster is it uses rationalization against you. It's normalized in society, and lust is felt as a normal appetite, just like hunger. Right? Lust kind of appears when you're not aware of it. It appears as just an itch that you need to scratch, and it uses rationalization in your mind. So you may be watching this, you may be on your goon journey, and you want to stop, and you watch this video, and you start to think, no, it's normal, I don't need to do this. A voice in your head will appear. So it's fine. Every once in a while, it's okay. It's all normal. But you don't realize that you're stuck in this loop of it's okay, of it's all normal, of depleting yourself, right? Lust depletes your energy. Now, I'm not here to say that I'm a saint, right? I'm a shaman. It's a little different. But I'm not here to say that I'm a saint. And I'm not here to say that you should never, ever, ever have sex. Or you should never masturbate. You should never watch porn. Any of those. What I'm saying is there's a point in the modern world where it's become an addiction, where men have become slave to their desires. And I've seen the extremes of it in the field, working as a spiritual healer. I've seen the extremes of it to where it totally destroys a man's life. What I'm bringing to you here is awareness. And what I'm bringing you here is, if you have issues with this, how to begin conquering this. But I say this, and I say this to you as a spiritual teacher. This is your own journey. I can only help show you the way. And young men have really lost their way. Even older men. You may be older than me. You may be in your 40s. You may be in your 50s struggling with this. Here is a chance for you to look at your life currently and where it is going. If you have a problem with lust, porn, and masturbation, or sex with a bunch of women, random women, maybe you're dating a real life succubus, and see how it is affecting your life from a moral standpoint, from your own view. All right. Now, let's get into the next page. So, the teachings of overindulgence and lust and semen retention is nothing new to the world today. But before we get in deeper, I want to show you some things that really stuck out to me. Videos that I've seen on the internet that stuck out to me quite a bit. That's loud. Hold up.
Mr. Dubois, my name is a pimp named Slickback, and this dependency, Mr. Dubois. May you are suffering from chronic bitch dependency, Mr. Dubois. May I call you Tom?
Is this some kind of joke?
Tom, bitch dependency is no laughing matter. Addiction to a bitch can fuck with your friends, your health, and scary enough, even your money.
Even your money.
Disease, Tom.
Wait, what was your name again?
Well, thank you for asking. My name is a pimp named Slickback.
Wait, a pimp?
Name Slickback.
Addiction to bitches, or we say most men don't have addiction or bitch dependency in the real world, right? That might, but where would that even come from? That would stem from really addiction to lust. Addiction to lust will pretty much, it's even seen in the Bible. It's seen in the Boondocks. It will mess with your money. It will mess with your health. It will mess with your mental. It'll mess with your friends. It'll mess with your family, because you are addicted to a feeling of pleasure. Now, from a more professional standpoint, let's look at a very, very interesting short that I had stumbled across. Now, you can read this here. I'm going to re-summarize it after. Yeah. This is Khabib and Khabib's father in a interview. Five weeks. So, if you couldn't read, or just to recap that really quick, the reporter is asking, he mentions that physical toll of sex and intercourse, and how would it affect an athlete like Khabib, right? Who is known to be one of the best fighters in the world. And his father saying, to help with this, at least 45 days, he sends him away from his wife, or away from the chance of any intimacy with his wife. At least 5 weeks does he abstain before any fight or any major fight. So what that is telling you, right? Wrestlers, pimps, cartoons like Boondocks, the Bible, even that, they all talk about the importance of a man abstaining from sexual release. But in this, right, I'm not talking about abstaining every once in a while from sex. I'm talking about overindulgence and conquering lust. This is very different. This is very, very, very different.
This is number one bullshit.
Conquering lust is a actual spirit, an actual demon, an actual entity that you will face along your journey. And it is probably the most powerful spirit that can destroy man, because it is very, very tricky to deal with. Now, I'm going to dive deep into the effects of lust, conquering lust, and really, 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 really how you can begin shifting your journey, right? We're going over a masterclass here. But to understand, sexual energy, spiritual healing energy, life energy, they're all the same. The most powerful man is a man who can conquer his sex drive. If you're interested in learning more about this, recirculating your energy, cultivating higher levels of sex, mastering your sexual energy, go to spiritualbossglobal.com, where you can find more teachings on this. You can find this teaching for free, and you can learn a little more occult secrets. Why do I have on this side here? I say this a lot, and some people may not understand this. There's levels to the game, there's levels to understanding. Two sides, one purpose. I have a priest and I have a pimp on the other side. And now many of you guys may be looking at me and say, this guy's insane. But as a priest, a Vietnamese priest, a shaman myself, I would say that pimps and priests have a lot in common, in that they are most masters of the sexual energy, and they're both able to use it to overcome their lust. And they're able to use the sexual energy that they have cultivated to direct people in their life. Now, a pimp directs his hoes and takes advantage of tricks who can't conquer their lust. But a priest, like myself, works with his lust, works with his spiritual energy, and directs people out in the world back to their home, back to their highest potential, back to God. Two sides of the same coin, one purpose. The use of sexual energy, cultivating it into something higher, and affecting the world. Now, pimps and priests affect the world in very different ways, but they use the same level of energy and the same level of understanding, which is control over lust and control of their sexual energy, to create worlds, to manifest and affect the world in many ways. So when people are tricking, right, they're giving their energy, they're giving the money to the pimp. When people in a context or review are sinning, yes, they're not able to control their lower level primal energies, they may go to a priest to seek help, to seek guidance. But in my experience, as I've mentioned, the subject of lust when it comes to men and seeing men in goblin mode has really, really thrown me for a loop. And it's something that I was not able, when I was deeper in the field years ago, I was not able to really understand what was going on with these young men. I really wasn't able, because when you talk to a man, and this, you're a man, you understand this. When you talk to a man, it's very easy for a man to understand something logically. But when he goes back to his cave, when he goes back to his environment, when he goes back to his own mental state, many times men suffer, and they suffer in silence. So they find some things to nourish themselves. They not nourish themselves, they find some things to give themselves into. And when a man has nothing to give himself into, he will give himself to video games, he'll give himself to porn, and he'll give himself away into something that would just numb that pain. So lust, when you conquer lust, what are things that can happen?
Somebody call for an exterminator?
Conquering lust. The truth about conquering lust, in my personal experience, 10 years ago, a decade ago, did I come into contact, actually not 10 years ago. Time is flying so quickly. Doesn't time fly quicker when you're older? I'm almost 31 years old now. When I was around the age of 19, 12 years ago, is when NoFap and semen retention became very popular on the internet. You may find me on one of those Reddit forums many years ago. And before that, I'd been just like some goblin champions or goon champions. Not that serious, but I could see the pull and the effect of how lust could destroy a man's life. When I was a kid, I played League of Legends, watched a lot of porn, and smoked a lot of weed. You may be able to guess by my appearance. Well, when I was younger, people could tell I smoked a lot of weed. And when I learned about NoFap, when I was around 20 years old, 19 years old is when I entered pre-medical school, I learned about NoFap. And I thought, whoa, it's not normal to watch porn all the time? And that's when I decided to go on this journey. And that's really when my spiritual journey began, is when I understood that, oh, so the energy of a sex drive could be used for something else? No freaking way. And here I am, 12 years later. I have published around 5 books, actually in person. 2 of them were failures. 7 total, but nobody's seen those. I've done a lot of cool things. Opened a facility in Vietnam. Tapped into my spiritual calling of my bloodline, being a shaman, being a priest. And graduated pre-medical school. Without NoFap, I would have never graduated pre-medical school. And in those past 10 years, I have met and traveled all over the world, met so many people, and just done amazing things. None of this would have been possible had I not discovered the fact that I could convert my lust into a different energy. I just had no idea. I just had no awareness of it. You people that are learning about this today, it is a miracle. Because if you're not aware, you don't know. If I had never seen that article on Reddit, or if I had never seen that video on YouTube where it said your brain on porn, my life would have been totally different. I would have never achieved any success at all, and I would have been a goblin goon champion. And that's why I make these videos, because I see people today that are spiritually suffering, and they don't know why. Because the modern world, especially if you're in the Western world, is just made for you. It's set up for you to suffer. It's made for you to be a second-class citizen. It's made for you to dole your fire, to dole your drive as a man, and to suffer in silence. And what's your reward? Your reward is some internet porn. Your reward is being a violent man if you ever speak up. Your reward is a dead end. Your reward is a dead end. As Spiritual Boss Global, I see that there is a second calling for all men that wish to leave the modern world and really tap into their own path. But this is about you. This is about your journey. You got to be able to stand up. You got to be able to forgive yourself. You got to be able to make a decision to conquer all obstacles that are on the way. And lust is going to be one of the toughest decisions for a man to conquer. And the reason why is lust is always there. It's a biological need, it's a biological urge, but it becomes perverted by the modern world with access, with brainwashing, with normalization. And these are things that you have to fight on your spiritual journey. You have to fight these things. You have to be aware of these things, that they even exist, and you have to fight them consciously. Had I not been conscious and aware of this many years ago, have some of you men not be conscious and aware to the things that you're doing that are actually poisoning your spirit, you may never ever actually live the life that's meant for you. You may never live the boss life.
We must use these tools that the great God has given us to fight.
You are wrong! Leonidas! You are wrong!
Lust is a energy drain. It's free dopamine and it's temporary pleasure. How to combat lust. Understand that lust, desire, and affection are all separate. And that is why it is a tough enemy. It's a tough spirit to conquer. Because it seems... So it seems, yes? It seems like they're all interconnected. And you may feel this when you're listening to this. You may feel that's all interconnected. And for years had I thought the same thing. Physical drive equals lust. Spiritual drive equals love. What if I told you that when you conquer your lust, you wouldn't feel that weird itch. You wouldn't feel that weird scratch where you just need to do something. And it's actually real. It's actually true. Can you actually believe that? We've been brainwashed to think that a man needs to constantly have sex. A man needs to constantly do stuff. But it's actually possible to where you don't have that at all. Because I don't have that. Look at this. And you know what? I find it hard to believe too. I find it hard to fucking believe that I've been so far brainwashed and on this journey of facing lust. I find it so far damn brainwashed where I thought, you know what? There's an actual way to where you don't feel that. Now, I'm not telling you to be celibate or abstinent. What I'm telling you is the desire of lust and desire of affection and the understanding of sexual energy, they're very, very different things. But lust is a perverted drive, and it gives you an illusion and it gives you a false sense of gratification, but in the end, it empties you out. This is a very, very, very complex and deep spirit. And I would say, even if I can tell you that I have overcame lust, I would tell you that it is always there. It is always lurking because it's very, very clever. The devil, the enemy, is very, very clever, and he will use lust to destroy men. Especially men with high libido, high spiritual energy, high drive, it will use it to destroy you. Now, let's go deeper and let's start to examine the root of lust. In my studies and in my experience and in working with people, I find that the men that fall suffering to lust, they're usually highly intelligent and they're usually highly ambitious, and they have a deep level of focus. But that level of focus, that level of energy, it has been perverted into many ways, into where they cannot control the fire. The fire of man needs to be constantly channeled and constantly poured into something. Understand that the masculine energy, I want you to understand this, the masculine energy is a intense focus vacuum, and it's always looking to pour itself into something, right? The man is looking to launch himself into the world and to die with this song, right? That's why warriors die an honorable death in battle, because it is the epitome of the masculine archetype: to seek, to destroy, and to give one's all. And when men are not able to give their all or pour themselves or find worth and find meaning in the direction, oftentimes the next thing right there is lust, because it is a temporary escape. It is a temporary release from the pain of life, of a directionless life. So oftentimes men that struggle with lust, they have no direction in life. They have no purpose, and they seek pleasure instead of purpose. Now, the wound, let's dive a little deeper into the wound, because this is actually a deep subject, and I want you to really pay attention here. I want you to really begin looking at yourself. The wound of lust, overindulgence in lust, can be your own inadequacy. You don't feel good about yourself, so you need to feel good temporarily. Boredom, many men are just bored with life, and now your brain is all messed up. Your brain's all messed up from the porn, from the excessive masturbation, from the excessive lust, from the excessive sex. Now your brain's all jacked up, just like a drug. Loneliness, right? Now your brain has even more trouble making friends because you see the world through a perverted lens. Lust is oftentimes used to be a mask for many men who don't know what love is, or who are uncomfortable, and it's a band-aid for a deeper wound. What evokes the spirit of lust, from what I've seen in many people, women included, right? If you meet women that are extremely promiscuous, oftentimes they have some issues there. But this is not a focus on the woman today. If you're a woman listening, what evokes the spirit of lust? Oftentimes it can be, when we look at the shadow, it can be repressed sexual trauma. You may have went through something when you were a child. You need some spiritual healing. If you want a healing domain, or if you want to see more of our works, go to spiritualbossglobal.com. The spirit of hate can be invoked in the mother. From the mother. Men that have a domineering mother, men that have issues with their mommy, they may become hateful and spiteful, and in that hate and spite, they see the woman as either something to worship, or they see the woman as something to hate, and they develop what is called the prima donna complex, where you imagine a perfect woman, and you see woman as either perfect, or you see them as either a whore, and you start to project this strange image onto the woman. Oftentimes this is invoked by the hatred of the mother, or the hatred of a family member, or suppressed sexual trauma that can't get out. And some people, they keep on suppressing their trauma, they keep on suppressing their energy, and the only way to get temporary relief is to release. So that energy of life that is to flow from them, they get attached by an entity of hate, and the entity of hate starts to trigger them. It starts to constantly trigger them, and they use lust. They use lust to drain that energy of life from them, right? Because every time you're releasing a large amount of spiritual energy. And these entities, they come, they whisper in your ear, they trigger your body, they pull on your body a little bit, and then you are in a constant cycle of issues never being resolved. One day, you may find yourself coming across a priest or a shaman who brings light to the issues that you may be facing.
I fear no enemy, for Kama is my strength.
Neglect, hate, many signs of lust. Unable to cope with the emotionalities of life, the struggles of life. A man who can't cope with the struggles of life, he may find comfort or solace in things like drugs, right? Wanting a perfect life, wanting things to feel good in the moment. Lust, right? Comfort. Just like a baby has a binky, Men oftentimes they have their own form of binkies. Some of it's smoking, some of it's gambling, some of it's sex, some of it's prostitutes, some of it's lust, some of it's drugs, some of it's addictions. When a man can't cope with the life, he'll find his adult binky. And another one that invokes the spirit of lust is sometimes it's when you were a child, you may have been exposed to the spirit of lust in a household. Say your parents weren't around, you didn't have spiritual protection, you had a strange man, your mom had a boyfriend or a strange person in the house, and they brought in this entity that may have started to whisper things in your ear. I know I've seen some interview with porn stars and they mentioned this, right? A porn star, I think her name is Rayleigh Raids. Some I saw it on white underbelly, soft white underbelly. I just remembered this. I would have got a video and put it in here had I remembered. But I just remembered this now. I watched this years ago. And she was saying when she was a child, she was home alone. And she was sitting there and all of a sudden she had this idea. And she said, I had this idea in my head all of a sudden that I'm going to be a porn star and a really good one. And likely she was home alone or she wasn't spiritually protected in her home. And this is when these spiritual entities, they can come and whisper in a child's ear. Before the age of, I believe, 12, you want to have your children spiritually protected. You don't want to bring strange men or strange women around them to where they can have influence, right? Other people carry spiritual entities with them. The spirit of lust, the spirit of abuse, the spirit of trauma may be coming in your house through strangers, strange men, strange women, or even yourself. And if you don't spiritually protect your child, certain things like this can happen, right? This battle is not a fleshly battle. It is a spiritual battle. We are in a battle of spiritual wickedness in high places. So understand that there is a entity attachment. That picture not loading. See, that is spiritual warfare. We have a picture showing you what it looks like to remove the entity of lust. However, understand that when you are addicted to lust, or you can't stop gooning, right? Goon champion. Goon champion. Is that you? Goon champion.
You are wrong, Leonidas. You are wrong.
Goon champion, draining your life force. Entities attached to you. If you have a problem with lust, you have a spiritual entity attachment. You do. It's not just a neurological thing. This cycle and this trauma and this dark energy, it becomes a feedback loop, and you attract an entity to you. And how I want you to visualize this entity is just like you have a leech. You have a leech on you, a spiritual leech on you, and it's just attached to your lower area, right? Your root chakra, your sacral chakra, or your solar plexus area. What we can just say where your nuts are. Where your nuts are, there's something, and this thing, right? What happens is whenever something happens, you feel that little itch. That's like it's pulling on you like a tripwire. It's pulling on you like a tripwire, and then you feel aroused, and then you need to release. But really, every time you need to release, and every time you need to indulge in lust, it's pulling on it so I can get fed. You ever see like a hamster or a little monkey pulling on a string in a lab to get a banana or a cracker? That's what these spiritual entities do. These negative entities, they exist because human beings, human bodies, being of light is very, very precious. It's very, very valuable. So these things, they come and they want to take your life from you because that energy of sex, that energy of life, that energy of release is so valuable. It's so delicious for them, right? They can't get it out in the ether. They can steal it from you. So the energy of lust, it will use these things over and over and over again to keep you in a cycle. It will keep you in a cycle, and it will keep you repeating. That's why oftentimes people, they masturbate or they watch porn and they have sex, a bunch of sex, and they feel so spiritually and morally defunct after. It's because there's something that's feeding off of you. Where do you think the energy goes? Newton's law Newton's law of energy transference. Energy can never be created or destroyed. So if you're busting a nut and you're not circulating the energy, or you're not using it from a higher conscious standpoint, where do you think the energy is going? You put it in your tissue and you throw it down the toilet? Or where do you think all that, when you lose all that energy mentally, physically, where do you think it goes? Do you think it just goes outside? It's gone? No, there's something there. It's just taking it from you. It's taking it from you and it enjoys it. You're its host. Now, I make this for you. I'm not trying to get you down into darkness. I'm trying to show you that. Let us understand this here. As a divine being, whether you are spiritual, whether you are religious or not, you have authority. God, the Most High Creator, gave you authority over spiritual beings. Also, you have authority over your own body and over your own vessel. Entities, attachments, addictions are tricky because they're really good. If you know like what gaslighting means, entities, spiritual battles, these outside forces, these outside dark forces that human beings oftentimes find themselves falling victim to, they're very good at gaslighting you into thinking that you have no power, because that's how they work. An entity doesn't have authority over you. The power of lust doesn't have authority over you, but it has the power to make you and shape you into such an environment where it can take its power from you. At any time, at any moment, you can revoke the spirit of lust. You can say, this is my body. You do not have permission over my body, right? But this whole time, and the whole time that people suffer, is they're not aware of it. They get stuck in a loop. Napoleon Hill, he calls it the force of habit. In the book Outwitting the Devil says, I get human beings through the force of habit. Meaning, I make them repeat things, I make them do things over and over and over and over until it hardens like cement. When in reality, as a human being, you can break free at any time. You have the authority to break free at any time. You have the authority, the God-given authority is in you to not allow negativity, to not allow vampires to drain your energy, to not allow entities to constantly take from you. But what the entities do is they make an environment, right, to where the poison and where the mold can grow easier, so they can take from you easier. But in reality, you're not a victim. You're only a victim if you believe you are, because they want you to believe that you are a victim so they can take from you. When you are able to stand in your power and you can revoke, you can say, yo, get away from my body, lust, I'm not giving you control over my body anymore, then you will start to see the separation from who you are and what the spirit of lust invokes inside of you. And this is very, very paramount on your journey of spiritual awakening, of spiritual evolution, and conquering yourself, mastering yourself, is starting to see that there are other emotions or other feelings that don't actually come from you. Now, I might be getting a little too deep here, but they don't actually come from you. When you start to separate yourself and see where the energy comes from, where the desire comes from, right? This is why I say lust is so tricky, because lust will trick you into thinking that it's just a biological urge, that is just normal, and that is just something to do right now. Even while you're listening to me, it might be tricking you, maybe saying, this guy's an idiot, this guy's bullshit, your life has been fine, and it will rationalize and rationalize and rationalize. And that is the power of other spirits, other entities. They will come in your head and influence you and make you rationalize and rationalize and rationalize. But do you know what your authority is? Your authority is given to you by God. And God shows you the way. God shows you a compass. God speaks to you in a voiceless voice. So while you are sitting and while you're hearing all of these voices telling you that, you know, you just need to bust a nut, you know, it's just normal, you know, you just need to go do this, you know, it's fine, he's not right, he's lying to you, don't you listen to this. That's the ego being influenced by outside forces, and it has a fear of dying. But in your spirit and in your soul, you know when things are right, and you know when things are wrong. And that is the truth, and that is nothing but the whole truth.
Put your faith in the light.
You know. The mind will rationalize, but the spirit will speak the truth to you. The spirit will show the truth to you. I'm not speaking to your mind. I'm not speaking to your ego. I am speaking to your spirit, because the spirit houses the actual man within. Your body is weak. The flesh is weak, but it houses a spirit. And the goal of a man becoming the boss version of himself, becoming the best version of himself, is to be guided by his spirit and to have his spirit have supremacy over his body. That is why in all spiritual teachings they say fasting, because fasting is going to war with the flesh. Lust is something of the flesh. True affection, true desire, and true love is something of the spirit. And to truly conquer lust, you must be able to begin separating yourself and seeing things for what they are. Lust is very tricky because it's going to tell you that all of these desires are the same. It will trick you, and it will constantly trick you, because it has a fear of dying, it has a fear of losing its power over you. Because if it loses its power over you, you get to live your life and you get to regain your power. And you get to regain all that energy that has been siphoning from you for years and years and years and years and years. This is a very deep battle. This is a very, very spiritual battle that I'm talking about. This is not simple scientific teaching. This is beyond the physical. This is metaphysical. This is in different dimensions. I'm showing you this, and I want to show you this. Why would I make a video about this? Why would I go through my effort in teaching you about this? Because I've seen the negative effects that it has on the human being. I've seen people in that goblin mode. I've seen people with their soul sucked. I've seen people who have lost their edge and lost their spark of life, all because they are facing a spiritual battle that they are not aware of. It's not on the surface. It's much, much, much deeper.
Behold my mighty hand.
Awareness. What I'm showing you here is awareness, consciousness, frequency. When the mind is stretched to a new dimension, it can never be the same. Now let me get into this right here. This is my favorite, probably my favorite teacher, Bob Proctor.
How do I expand my level of awareness? Well, here's your answer. It's effective education combined with professional coaching over a reasonable period of time will eliminate virus code and expand the person's level of awareness.
Bob Proctor, one of my favorite teachers ever, he had a saying. He said, all we're ever seeking is more awareness. And you are the solution to all of your problems, and you are the only problem you will ever have. Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale, and Napoleon Hill, who I have in this cool AI animated photo here, they are probably my favorite teachers of all time and are pretty much why I am the way I am, other than my spiritual gift and my shamanic bloodline. These three teachers of all time, do I pay my utmost respects to them in every single little thing I do. Most of my teachings, most of my understanding, my knowledge of wealth, my knowledge of the metaphysics of the world can be attributed, probably 90% of them, to these three men. So I pay great respect to them, and I would like to continue to push forward the teaching that they shared, and it's really awareness. If you are aware of how to conquer yourself, if you're aware of how to conquer your issues, if you are aware of how to make the money you want, if you are aware of how to have the relationships that you want, then you would have them, right? Most things people don't do. Oftentimes they don't try to do their worst. It's just they're doing their best, but their best is oftentimes just the worst outcome. If you are seeking more awareness, go to spiritualbossglobal.com. You'll find this teaching there. You'll find many free teachings there, and you'll find a huge archive of some of the best teachings in the world for the modern man. For the modern man on his journey. If you're messing with this, if you're vibing with this, that's for you. If you're a woman, or if you think what I'm saying is hokey pokey, hunky dory, woo woo, it's not for you. Right? If you agree with what I'm saying, if you see some value in what I'm saying, you'll find more over there. It's my own separate domain. Oh man.
Alright, can I just get to this question?
Beta!
Behold my mighty hand.
Beta!
I need to get a real soundboard. You guys can donate in the description below to help with the work. I'm looking to buy a soundboard very soon so I can push these buttons.
Beta!
So, when looking at lust lust really attributes to you being your worst version. We have some pictures of the hunchback of Goblin Spartan here. Yeah, man, lust, when you can't control it, you pretty much, it attributes to you being a total loser. I mentioned a lot. I had a client one time who was an accountant, and he had a lot of trouble with fapping. We used to call it fapping back in the day. And one day he'd done his accounting work, and he'd come back to me. And he said he spent about 5 years total of his life fapping. And he was only 24 years old at the time. So he spent a quarter of his life fapping. And he was moderately successful. Imagine if he had taken that energy and put it into something productive. Imagine, alright, some of you guys may beat that record. Imagine all this energy that you're losing and where you could be putting it if you weren't addicted to lust. Now, as I mentioned, right? Lust oftentimes it shadows a bigger issue. It's a band-aid to prevent us oftentimes of feeling the truth about life. And as a man, the truth is going to set you free. You have to seek the truth. You have to stand in the truth. And you have to allow the truth to set you free. You have to allow the truth to digest inside of you. It's the only thing that's going to set you free. I'm not saying some rah-rah motivation speech like speak your truth because somebody annoys you. Yeah, just tell them how it is. No, I'm telling you to tell this to yourself. I'm telling you the truth of much of man's issues stems from the inability to sit in a room in silence. Yes, but also the inability to confront who he really is and what has happened to him and who he has become. When he can do that and swallow the truth, you're going to find a fire within him begin to be reborn.
I fear no enemy, for the Kama is my strength.
Who's your best version? Ah, here's the image that wasn't loading. Right on the right side is what it looks like when you have an entity attachment from the etheric plane. Right, some people may see psychics or other spiritual guides, spiritual healers. They may present these entities to you as succubus or creatures or octopus that attach to people's bodies. But from a simple standpoint, you can look at this as there is a shadowy figure that likes to drain you, and you hold within your hand. You hold within your hand. Behold, my mighty hand. You hold within your hand at all times a sword of truth. Every man is given the sword of truth. That is the sword of the Spirit, the Word, right? The Word of God. In Ephesians, they speak of the sword of truth, which is the Word. Man was given the ability of the Word of God to cut through the lies, to cut through the fluff, and have dominion over his body. You can banish these entities. You can banish them when you are able to face them, when you're able to see what they're gaslighting you into thinking what you are believing. I do say thinking. Your best version is you, a fulfilled life, your true potential, higher frequency living. But your best version is not existing in a state that's being drained all the time. To conquer lust is to conquer oneself, and it's to face oneself and to stop allowing one to be tranquilized by pleasure, and there's dopamine and parasympathetic nervous system existing in a permanent state of post-nut clarity all day long and entering goblin mode. So that's all. That is all. You can become who you wish to become. You can become who you desire to become. I hope this was of value to you. I really do hope this was of value to you. Don't mind me with my sound effects. I just installed this new soundboard and I've been enjoying using it.
Perfect.
Beta!